Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Denise Bryson. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
This is Dr. Keitha. I want to welcome you today to Indie Beacon's radio broadcast and television or YouTube. I want to welcome my guest tonight, Mr. Peter Ticktin. He told me to remember TikTok, and now I can't think of anything but TikTok. So Ticktin, he is an attorney from Florida and writer, and has a very exciting thing to present to us tonight in the form of his book concerning Donald Trump. So I want to welcome you to the broadcast.
Well, thank you.
All right, my first question is, can you tell me briefly your background as it concerned your law practice, and then into becoming a writer? How did that transition occur?
Okay. Well, I guess I watched too much Perry Mason as a kid and too much Matlock and so on. And for some reason, I really wanted to be a lawyer. I actually was in medical school at one point and just did 1 year of medical school because I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer, and a trial lawyer at that. And so at first I was, even though I was born in the Bronx, I ended up going to school in London, Ontario, and became a barrister in the Canadian system, and then ultimately moved to Miami and went to the University of Miami and got onto the Florida bar, and where I pursued my career. And I've had a very good and interesting one. I've made a lot of law, and I've had a lot of excitement. The movie Philadelphia was originally supposed to be called Miami. It was the story of what happened up there actually was my case, and unfortunately my client died just before trial, so then it moved up to Philadelphia for that trial. But I did have a court TV trial for a couple of weeks, just to give you an idea of the kind of cases I handle. It involved an organ procurement supervisor who basically signs people up to give their organs after, or the family to give somebody's organs after the person is brain dead. And they forged the mother's permission in that case and took a 7-year-old's organs, even though the child was not brain dead. It was a very sad situation, sad case. And that was a court TV trial I've done. I've been before a Supreme Court of California, Florida, Supreme Court of Canada, and have participated in a case in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. I've been in many trials in many states, from North Carolina, New York, California, Tennessee, you name it, and I've probably been there for something in terms of the law. And I've had a real good career. I'm sorry, say that again?
How did that background into your writing? It's a big stretch to jump from that and a successful career into being a writer.
Well, in fact, I write an awful lot. I've done more than 100 appeals, and of course those involve writing briefs. I've got an office full of lawyers, but it really comes back to me to do the final write on a lot of these things. I guess I do. I know how to write, and I went to high school with Donald Trump. And not just as a classmate in a normal high school, we were at New York Military Academy. And that's a school that, at that time, things were a little bit more brutal and different than things are now. We come from when I say we, I mean Donald and I, come from a time when parents would say to spoil, to spare the rod is to spoil the child, meaning corporal punishment was in order. And if you didn't, you were a negligent parent. The fact is that we also had that kind of problem or that kind of situation in our high school. You might call it hazing today, but it was far more brutal at that time than just hazing. And no school could actually exist today without being sued out of existence if they did what happened at that time, between what happened to him and what happened to me. But he started when he was 13. I started when I was 15. And I got to tell you, the upperclassmen, these kids were so much bigger and stronger. They were seniors. What was I, 140 pounds? Probably Donald wasn't even that when he was 13 when he started. And the fact is that we learned how to face fear individually. Now, I wasn't with him in his first year. He started 2 years ahead of me, even though we were the same age and ended up we were in the same class. In our senior year, that was the year we got very close together. Although I did know him more in my junior year. We'd been through things just in our school. I mean, we went through the October missile crisis as students. I mean, here we are, kids that are in uniforms with rifles. And we didn't know, we thought that bombs,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean bombs, but I'm talking about nuclear missiles were going to be raining down on us. When you see a movie or documentary about the Cuban Missile Crisis, they don't show you how they actually manipulated the entire population to make us very, very fearful at that time. Because I got to tell you, if we weren't fearful, it never would have worked. Khrushchev wouldn't have believed it if it was just a farce. It had to be real, and it was. And that reality of looking up at the night sky and thinking that you might see some things for the last moments of your life, or being 60 miles or so outside of New York City, what was going to be required of us in order to help keep order. As I said, we were boys, but we were treated like young men. And so we went through that kind of exercise. In American history class the next year, Donald and I were together when somebody came in and told our class that President Kennedy had been shot. And we had to go through that experience together. It was a different time, a different world at that time. But the fact is that, I'm so sick and tired of people calling Donald Trump a bully, a bigot. Back then, nobody used the expression the N word, okay? N-word was not in existence. If somebody wanted to say something, they just said that nasty word. And it wasn't seen although it could be, depending on who's saying it and how they're saying it, as nasty or horrible as a word as it is, as we see it today. But the fact of the matter is that Donald never would use that word, even back then, as a 17-year-old. He was anything but a bigot. He doesn't waste his time. Even then, he was a man on a mission. He had to reach certain goals. And I got to tell you, our company performed all its responsibilities, from inspections to drilling to, appearance and parades. However, whatever we had to do, we did it. We did it well. We never failed under his leadership. And where in other companies you had bullies. Now, if you're ever going to be a bully, you're going to be a bully when you're 17, when you're still not all, matured into a better age. If you're going to be a bully, you're going to be a bully when you're bigger and stronger and you're a jock. If you're going to be a bully, you're going to be a bully when you're the captain of a company and nobody can do anything about it. I mean, I've seen other captains of other companies having their entire company standing at attention, and they would go in front of any particular one of the cadets and basically knee them in a place that's not to be necessarily discussed exactly, but you know what I'm talking about. People were brutal at that time, doing things like that. And it's not like Donald never, hardly ever did things like that, or rarely did. Donald never, ever would be like that to anybody. He never was. I mean, we lived together.
Let's pause here for a moment, because we're going to have to step away and get to our sponsors and then come back. But I want to make sure that the audience understands the name of your book is
It's What Makes Tick.
Do you send book sales to a company that takes most of your money? Want to earn more money from your book sales? Do you want a bookstore that supports you? Introducing a new bookstore for indie authors and small press, B4R.store. Earn up to 80% of your book sales and learn how to market yourself. B4R.store. Join us for the 6th Annual Authors Marketing Event in Granbury, Texas on July 23rd to the 25th, 2021, where authors share ideas and learn from the professionals over a 2-day weekend. Receive your book marketing certification from the only organization in the world that has been doing it for 5 years, Authors Marketing Guild, a membership-based organization that supports authors from around the world. Learn more at ame.authorsmarketingguild.com. Sponsored by IndieLector.store, a bookstore that pays authors their fair share.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
I want to welcome you back. We're here with Mr. Peter Ticktin, and he has written a wonderful book called Donald Trump. It's called What Makes Trump Tick? My years with Donald Trump from the New York Military Academy to the present. We were just discussing the military academy, and there's still an involvement with Mr. Trump, I'm sure as a friend and perhaps confidant, but they've had a long lifetime together. So we want to make sure that we get this clear understanding of what's going on to the readers and listeners, so that they can then in turn interpret how this in the news. We want to hear that tonight. So Peter, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the book. If you could, please, can you explore with me about your involvement with the Trumps, with President Trump during this time from military school on?
Well, it's more like an occasional visit that I would have. I would visit him. He's never been to my home. Not that he wouldn't be welcome, but it's like if you met one of your best friends or somebody you really knew well in high school. You might have love between you and really wonderful feeling, but it's not as though I'm actively involved in anything that he's doing, or we don't have that kind of confidential communication. Although, we were together at one occasion where we were sitting at the same table, laughing at the same things that Senator Graham was basically saying, and together, and we share that kind of time from time to time, but not really where I'm advising him about Afghanistan or what he should do and anything in the world. He's a very busy man, and he's surrounded by very capable people right now. My main thrust in this thing, and my main goal, is to be able to really fill in the blank of who was Donald Trump. His parents are no longer with us. His children didn't know him when he was younger, of course, because they came after. So I basically know him better than most other people for at least the years 16 and 17 of his life. And I can verify what kind of a person he was then. And I've been following him closely for the rest of our lives. And I read his books. I've, visited him in different places. I've seen him. And the fact of the matter is that, he's been consistent. He's the same guy. And he's just one of these people that has a natural ability. People wonder in terms of his intelligence. Some people don't think that he's that bright. Sometimes he doesn't even use the correct English. But I got to tell you, at New York Military Academy, when we were admitted there, we had to take an intelligence test. And it was on the basis of that you were admitted or not. And only 1 out of 7 in that time were admitted into the school. So he was in the top 1 out of 7 of the people that were admitted. And because there were no athletic scholarships or whatever at that point, not there anyway. And as well, then he at least had partially, in some of the trimesters that we were there, he was an A student because he was an honor cadet. When you see a picture of him, you'll see on his collar, he's got a gold star, and that indicates that he was an A student, at least for those trimesters. So here you got a guy who, he didn't graduate in the top 10, but he graduated very close to the top 10, and a very, very sharp guy. And his leadership ability back then was just, I have to explain that, because he, unlike the other captains of other companies who were much more corporal in the way they dealt with things, he was a good guy, and he got people doing what they needed to do. He got all the other guys in the company doing what they needed to do and doing it right, because we didn't want to disappoint him, and not because we were afraid of him. We were never afraid of him for a minute. He just wasn't that kind of a person. And there are different episodes that I talk about in the book. I caught a thief at one time. Of course, he was the one that had to deal with it, and and then I ultimately had to deal with it. There were other things that I don't want to give too much of the book away, but there were other adventures, let's just say, that we had at that time that speak entirely well for the man, because even at that younger age, really, I think people's values are well in place by the time they're 16, 17 years of age. At least they were then. And I know Donald thinks that too. And in fact, he wrote a letter for me once when I was applying to the bar. And that's what he indicated. He says, assuming that he's the way he is, and he probably wasn't then, and he probably is, because people don't change. The basic personalities are in place, and his was there then. And then you look at what that measures up to today. Okay, and that's where I come into, because I do have a bit of an audience for my posts and so on. And, basically, you've got a guy, it was an insurance policy that I would say the Dems, but it really wasn't just the Dems, it was the deep state to a great extent that really exists. Anyway, these people had what they called an insurance policy. And what was the insurance policy? Make sure you get a deep examination going after Donald Trump comes to the office, and that way he'll be removed. George Bernard Shaw said that the punishment of a liar is not in the least that he cannot be believed, but rather that he cannot believe others. We all look at the world through our own prism, and these people were looking at the world through their prism, and because they were crooked and they were corrupt, they figured everybody must be. And that's what they thought about Donald Trump. They thought, if we have a way of doing a close enough investigation of him after he's in the presidency, we'll be able to get him removed. It's an insurance policy. So this whole thing, this whole investigation, the entire Chinese investigation, was all based on that. That was what they did. And so here you got Mueller, but not so much Mueller, but the people that were under him that hated Donald Trump and really wanted to have him removed, that had a budget where they spent over $30 million to do their investigations. And in all of that time, they couldn't find one thing. They couldn't find, they weren't looking for Russian collusion. Sure, that would have been great if they could find that, but they were looking for anything. If they could find him spitting in the subway, they would have made a point out of it. They couldn't find anything. So why was that? How could it be? How many people would be able to pass that kind of a test? How many people are that clean that they could go through the Mueller investigation without any other crimes, any other problems showing up and surfacing? I don't know that many people, but I will tell you that part of the reason that he's clean is because at New York Military Academy, and it really goes right back to then, because before he came into New York Military Academy, he was a bit of a wiseacre, or a wise guy. I don't mean like a criminal kind of wise guy, just the way that term used to mean, a jokester, a guy, Anyway, that's what he was. He was a bit of a bratty, rich kid. His values really stemmed from the way he went through the indoctrinations at New York Military Academy. That's where he learned that he had the color between the lines. That's where he learned that it did not pay for him to go over the lines, to violate the rules. So you know what the rules are pretty well. Everybody does. We're all presumed to know the law. And so what he didn't do was he didn't break the laws. He didn't need to break the laws. He had some early excess, you know, when he rebuilt the Plaza Hotel, what used to be called the Commodore Hotel in New York. Once he rebuilt that, you know, and found out that where other projects, you can make a few million if you're lucky. But if you do something like that, you can make 170 million. You know, that kind of a situation changed his whole trajectory in terms of becoming the billionaire that he is. And by the way, talking about smarts, you know what? I think I'm a smart guy, but I tell you, I didn't make $1 billion. I don't know too many people that have. I know a few, but you know, most of them were born with that golden spoon in their mouths. No, Donald might have had a silver spoon in his mouth, but he turned it into a golden spoon.
All right. Well, Peter, I appreciate hearing the information from a firsthand associate of President Trump, a totally different perspective than many people are shouting. But we're going to step away again for our sponsors, and then we'll be back to close and give some information about how we find you and find your information and your book.
World War II, the Holocaust and a mysterious package arrives in New York from Germany 40 years after the war, involving 3 families across the oceans. Mystery, intrigue, and correcting the most heinous of wrongs. This is just part of the story Michael Newman tells in his book, Between These Walls. Available in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or at indielector.store. Buy it today and enjoy this thriller of a novel. Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Welcome back. We're here with Peter Ticktin. Peter, I'm so sorry, Mr. Peter, that I keep getting your name hard on my mouth. I wanted to let you have a chance here to tell people, our viewers, how you can find your book in addition to Indie Bookstore. Where are you available? How can we find it online? An email address perhaps that you can give us that we can find some more information about.
Okay, I'm happy to. Well, my name is Ticktin. The book is What Makes Trump Tick. Yeah. Okay, yeah, there's a reason for that. So the fact is that we're on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and either can remember Ticktin, like thick, thin, but Ticktin, then you'll find the book, or whatmakestrumptick.com is another website to go on to, and that is also selling the book. Also, I think the Hudson bookstores in the airports are going to be selling it, and it's getting into various bookstores. I just don't know which ones. But your best bet is Amazon.
Okay. How can you, all right. How can you, you said the website, give that website address again.
Okay. Whatmakestrumptick.com. Just the title of the book. What Makes Trump Tick.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we get that out there. That's right.
Right. Or if you can't find anything else.
I also
let me just add this. If you can't find anything else, just go to legalbrains.com. Just my initials, PT, like PT boat, pt@legalbrains.com. That's my own personal email address. By all means, just go there and I'll make sure you get a book.
Okay. Well, there's another side to you too. I just wanted to let you know, I read your whole collection of poetry. I was particularly affected by A Soldier's Prayer, and very impressed with your poetry. So keep that side going too, if you would.
Okay,
I
thanks.
understand you're also on the speaker circuit, and on that speaker circuit, you have firsthand account of Donald Trump. Do you have a separate speaker contact in the event somebody's looking for a solid, informed speaking engagement?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what. It's Transmedia in Boca Raton that are my those are the people that handle it all. But as I say, if you have anything at all, if you need me for anything whatsoever or want me for anything whatsoever, just go to pt@legalbrains.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me, and then I can get you together with the people that actually book.
Well, I appreciate your time and hearing your firsthand account and giving a more personal touch and insight into our president. It has been an honor and a privilege to spend time with you, and I wish you well on your endeavor, and go out there and change the world.
That's what we should do. We should be lucky enough to accomplish that in any way, shape, or form in our lives. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website. Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Dr. Keitha Story-Stephenson.
Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild, LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Allen Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord of Ukraine.